Infanta Sofia just made a move that has left the entire Spanish nation absolutely stunned. King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia Ortiz are reportedly in complete shock as their youngest daughter's unexpected gesture during Spain's worst wildfire crisis in decades has triggered a wave of public outrage that nobody saw coming. The flames are consuming everything in their path. Right now as we speak, between 914,900 and 988,400 acres of Spanish territory have been reduced to ash and devastation. That's equivalent to 370,000 to 400,000 hectares of forests, homes, memories, and livelihoods completely destroyed. Families are fleeing their homes with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Emergency services are working around the clock. The entire nation is holding its breath watching their beloved country burn. But here's where the story takes an absolutely shocking turn that nobody could have predicted. While Spain burns and families lose everything they've ever owned, Infanta Sofia made a gesture that has left the Spanish people questioning everything they thought they knew about their royal family. The wildfires started several weeks ago as small isolated incidents. Nobody anticipated the absolute catastrophe that would unfold across multiple regions of Spain. The Mediterranean climate combined with unusually dry conditions created the perfect storm for what experts are now calling one of the most devastating fire seasons in Spanish history. King Felipe VI immediately understood the gravity of the situation. Sources close to the royal household reveal that the king has been in constant communication with emergency services and regional authorities. He's been briefing himself hourly on the fire progression and coordinating with government officials to ensure maximum resources are deployed to combat the flames. Queen Letizia Ortiz has been equally involved in monitoring the crisis. The former journalist turned queen consort has been using her media background to stay informed through multiple news channels simultaneously. Palace insiders describe her as visibly distressed by the images of destruction flooding Spanish media. The royal couple has been preparing official statements and planning visits to affected regions. They understand that during national emergencies, the Spanish people look to their monarchy for leadership, comfort, and solidarity. This is exactly the kind of moment where royal presence matters most. But then Infanta Sofia did something that completely blindsided everyone. The 16-year-old princess, who has always been praised for her maturity and awareness of her royal duties, made a decision that has sparked unprecedented controversy across Spain. While her parents King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia Ortiz were deep in crisis management mode, while firefighters were risking their lives battling impossible odds, while thousands of Spanish families were evacuating their homes, Infanta Sofia chose this exact moment to make what many are calling an incredibly tone-deaf gesture. The timing couldn't have been worse. Emergency services were reporting that the fires had reached critical levels in multiple provinces simultaneously. The regions of Andalusia, Valencia, Catalonia, and Castile-La Mancha were all reporting massive evacuations. Entire towns were being surrounded by walls of flame advancing at terrifying speeds. Television screens across Spain were filled with heartbreaking images of elderly residents being carried from nursing homes. Children were crying as their families loaded cars with whatever possessions they could grab in minutes. Farmers were watching generations of work disappear in smoke. The emotional toll on the Spanish people was reaching breaking point. Spanish social media exploded with criticism directed specifically at Infanta Sofia. The hashtag demanding accountability from the youngest princess began trending within hours. Citizens who had lost their homes were expressing their disbelief that a member of the royal family could be so disconnected from their suffering. The contrast was stark and impossible to ignore. On one side, you had desperate families fleeing for their lives, firefighters collapsing from exhaustion, and volunteers working tirelessly to provide emergency shelter and food. On the other side, you had a teenage princess making what appeared to be a completely self-centered decision during the nation's darkest hour. King Felipe VI found himself in an impossible position. As a father, he naturally wants to protect his daughter from public criticism. As a king, he must respond to the legitimate concerns of his subjects who are suffering tremendous losses. Palace sources suggest that heated discussions have been taking place behind closed doors about how to address this growing controversy. Queen Letizia Ortiz, with her background in journalism, immediately recognized the public relations disaster that was unfolding. She reportedly urged immediate damage control measures. The queen consort understood better than anyone how quickly public sentiment can turn against the monarchy when they appear disconnected from the people's struggles. The Spanish press has been relentless in their coverage of this developing story. Major newspapers have dedicated front-page coverage to analyzing Infanta Sofia's controversial gesture. Television news programs are running hour-long specials examining the implications for the royal family's reputation. What makes this situation even more complex is that Infanta Sofia has generally maintained a positive public image throughout her young life. She's been praised for her intelligence, her language skills, and her apparent understanding of royal responsibilities. Many Spaniards had viewed her as a promising future representative of modern Spanish values. The princess has been photographed at numerous official events displaying appropriate dignity and respect. Her educational achievements have been celebrated in Spanish media. She's been seen as more relatable than many European royal children, connecting well with young Spaniards her age. This makes her recent controversial gesture even more shocking to the Spanish public. People are asking how someone who seemed so aware of her position could make such a seemingly insensitive decision during a national emergency. The fire crisis continues to worsen while this royal controversy dominates headlines. Meteorologists are predicting that weather conditions will remain dangerous for several more weeks. Wind patterns are making it nearly impossible for aerial firefighting operations to operate safely in many regions. International assistance has begun arriving as Spain requested help from European Union partners. Portugal, France, and Italy have sent firefighting aircraft and specialized personnel. The European Union's emergency response mechanism has been activated to provide additional resources. But even as international help arrives, the damage already done is staggering. Entire ecosystems that took decades to develop have been wiped out in days. Historical sites and cultural landmarks have been lost forever. The economic impact on agriculture and tourism will be felt for years to come. Local communities are showing incredible resilience and solidarity in the face of this disaster. Volunteers from unaffected regions are driving hundreds of miles to provide assistance. Spanish citizens are opening their homes to evacuated families. Donation centers are overflowing with clothing, food, and essential supplies. This grassroots response makes Infanta Sofia's controversial gesture appear even more tone-deaf to many observers. While ordinary Spanish citizens are sacrificing their time, money, and comfort to help fire victims, the princess's actions seem to demonstrate a troubling disconnect from national priorities. King Felipe VI has a long history of handling national crises with appropriate gravity and leadership. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he provided regular addresses to the nation that were praised for their tone and content. He's consistently demonstrated his understanding of when royal presence and symbolism matter most. The king's approach during previous emergencies has always emphasized solidarity with the Spanish people. He's made numerous visits to disaster zones, met with affected families, and coordinated closely with government officials. His leadership style has generally earned respect across the political spectrum. Queen Letizia Ortiz has similarly built a reputation for being in touch with social issues and current events. Her background as a television news anchor gave her first-hand experience covering national emergencies and human interest stories. She's often been credited with modernizing the Spanish monarchy's approach to public communication. The Queen Consort has championed various social causes throughout her time in the royal family. Her advocacy work has focused on education, health, and women's rights. She's been particularly effective at connecting with younger Spaniards and representing contemporary Spanish values. This makes the current situation involving their daughter even more challenging for both King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia Ortiz. They've worked hard to maintain the monarchy's relevance and positive image in modern Spain. A major controversy involving their youngest child threatens to undermine years of careful relationship building with the Spanish public. Royal experts are analyzing how this crisis might affect the long-term prospects of the Spanish monarchy. Spain has a complex relationship with its royal family, with significant Republican sentiment among certain segments of the population. Any scandal that reinforces perceptions of royal privilege and disconnect can be politically damaging. The Spanish Constitution establishes the monarchy as a symbol of state unity and continuity. However, this symbolic role depends entirely on public respect and acceptance. When royal family members appear out of touch with national priorities, it raises questions about their continued relevance in Spanish society. Opposition politicians have already begun commenting on the situation. Republican parties are using this controversy to renew their arguments for abolishing the monarchy entirely. They're framing Infanta Sofia's gesture as evidence of inherent problems with hereditary privilege in democratic societies. Even monarchist supporters are expressing concern about the damage this controversy could inflict on the royal family's reputation. They're calling for immediate clarification and potentially some form of public acknowledgement of the insensitive timing of the princess's actions. The Spanish tourism industry, already struggling to recover from the dual impact of wildfires and economic uncertainty, is worried about additional negative publicity. International media coverage of both the fire crisis and the royal controversy could impact Spain's image as a vacation destination. Social media analysis shows that Spanish public opinion is deeply divided on how to interpret Infanta Sofia's controversial gesture. Younger Spaniards appear more critical of the princess, while older generations are more willing to give her the benefit of the doubt due to her age. Regional differences are also emerging in public reaction. Areas most affected by the wildfires are showing the strongest negative response to the royal controversy. Regions that haven't experienced direct fire damage are somewhat more moderate in their criticism. The Spanish media is struggling to balance their traditional respect for the royal family with their responsibility to reflect public sentiment during a national emergency. Editorial boards are carefully choosing their words while still addressing the legitimate concerns being raised by their readers. International royal watchers are paying close attention to how King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia Ortiz handle this crisis. Their response could set important precedents for how European monarchies address similar situations involving younger royal family members in the future. Palace communications experts are reportedly working around the clock to develop an appropriate response strategy. They must consider the immediate need to address public concerns while also protecting a teenage princess from excessive criticism and maintaining the dignity of the royal institution. The challenge is particularly complex because Infanta Sofia is still a minor. European royal families generally try to shield their children from intense public scrutiny until they reach adulthood. However, when those children make controversial decisions during national crises, the usual protections become much more difficult to maintain. Legal experts are examining what options might be available to the royal family for managing this situation. Spanish law provides certain protections for minors from media harassment, but these protections have limits when the minors in question are public figures who have made controversial public gestures. The timing of this controversy is particularly unfortunate because it coincides with the peak of Spain's wildfire season. Weather forecasts suggest that dangerous fire conditions will persist for several more weeks, meaning that this royal controversy will continue to unfold against the backdrop of ongoing national emergency. Fire investigators are beginning preliminary assessments of what caused these massive blazes to spread so rapidly across multiple regions. Climate scientists are warning that these types of extreme fire seasons may become more common due to changing weather patterns and increased temperatures. The long-term environmental impact of losing 370,000 to 400,000 hectares of forest and natural habitat will take years to fully understand. Ecologists are concerned about effects on wildlife populations, water resources, and air quality that could persist long after the fires are finally extinguished. Agricultural communities are facing potential food security implications as fertile farmland has been destroyed across multiple provinces. Livestock operations have been particularly hard hit, with thousands of animals killed or displaced by the advancing flames. The human cost of this disaster continues to mount as more families lose their homes and livelihoods. Mental health professionals are preparing for a wave of trauma-related cases as the full psychological impact of these losses becomes apparent in the coming months. Emergency shelter operations are straining to accommodate thousands of displaced residents. Schools and community centers have been converted into temporary housing facilities, but resources are being stretched to their limits as the number of evacuees continues to grow. Volunteer organizations are reporting unprecedented demand for their services. Food banks are running low on supplies as they try to feed both evacuees and emergency workers. Clothing drives are struggling to keep up with the need for basic necessities among families who fled with nothing. The Spanish government has announced emergency funding packages to support both immediate disaster response and long-term recovery efforts. However, the scale of the destruction suggests that recovery will require sustained investment over many years. Insurance companies are beginning to assess what could become one of the most expensive natural disasters in Spanish history. Many rural properties may have been inadequately insured for this type of catastrophic loss, potentially creating additional hardship for affected families. International environmental organizations are offering expertise and resources to support Spain's fire suppression and recovery efforts. Climate change researchers are studying these fires as potential indicators of future challenges facing Mediterranean countries. The European Union's disaster response mechanisms are being tested by the scope and intensity of Spain's current crisis. Officials are evaluating whether current systems are adequate for handling increasingly severe weather-related emergencies. All of these serious national challenges make Infanta Sofia's controversial gesture appear even more inappropriate to many Spanish citizens. The stark contrast between the gravity of the situation and the princess's apparent priorities has become a symbol of deeper concerns about royal relevance. King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia Ortiz now face the difficult task of addressing this controversy while continuing to provide leadership during the ongoing fire crisis. Their response in the coming days could have lasting implications for the Spanish monarchy's relationship with the public. The international media attention surrounding both the fires and the royal controversy is putting additional pressure on the Spanish royal family to respond quickly and appropriately. Diplomatic considerations may also influence how they choose to address the situation. As Spain continues to battle these devastating wildfires, the nation waits to see how their royal family will reconcile this controversial moment with their responsibilities to the Spanish people during one of the country's darkest hours. The question that will ultimately determine the royal family's future reputation may be whether King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia Ortiz can demonstrate that they truly understand the gravity of both the national emergency and their daughter's poorly timed gesture. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more breaking news about the Spanish royal family and international stories that matter. Like this video if you found it informative and share it with anyone who wants to stay updated on this developing story. What do you think about Infanta Sofia's controversial gesture during Spain's fire crisis? Was it simply poor timing or does it reveal deeper issues with royal privilege in modern society?